Welcome back to Park the Bus, the Gazette's high school soccer podcast here on the Iowa Prep Sports Network. Nathan Ford and Ryan Pleggenkuhle with you once again. And it's all of a sudden the postseason for most high school soccer teams. That kind of flew by. I know we had to miss a week, but I honestly had to double check the schedule and be like, oh yeah, the postseason did start on Monday night on the boys' side.
Right. Totally snuck up on us this year.
And the girls begin postseason. They have postseason games. I think they had a couple postseason games on Monday night too. There's a couple 1A games. But every team will be in action, if not this week, by next Monday, I believe, on the boys' side.
Mhm.
So we're going to be walking through all the brackets that involve the Gazette area teams on this show. We'll start on the girls' side, and first we're just going to take a look at the rankings to kind of give you an idea of which teams are favored to make it to state, which are going to be the sort of the top seeds in their region. So Ryan, why don't you give us a look at this week's IGHSAU rankings?
Yeah, Nathan. So first of all, I just want to start by saying I still have the Wolves in six, uh,
Yeah,
despite the last two losses at home.
that's
What a
bold.
weird series where the road team is 4-4. But I still believe. I still believe. And then of course we have Caitlin Clark going tonight.
Yeah.
So the Fever. So yeah, it seems like basketball season kind of just got over with at the college level, and now it's now we're watching WNBA.
I'm
We're
not
kind of
complaining.
spoiled right now.
Yeah, I'm not complaining as a basketball fan, and I know you're going to make some bold predictions on this show, so we'll see how that compares with your a very bold one right there, going Wolves in six.
Yeah, that might be the boldest prediction I make, to be honest. But no, let's start on the girls' side from our area ranked teams. 1A and 1A's rankings are final. So Center Point Urbana comes in at number 8, and they're with a 10-1 record. And then the only other area team is Beckman at number 13 with a record of 10-2. So Vinton Shellsburg had been kind of in those rankings. They just dropped out, but they're not too far down that list. But those are the two from 1A. 2A, and these rankings will become final on the 16th. So these aren't the final rankings, but this is what we have up to date. Cedar Rapids Xavier comes in at number 6 with a record of 6-3. Independence comes in at number 7 with a record of 10-3. Iowa City Liberty, which I got to cover a game there last week. They're playing Cedar Rapids Jefferson. They come in at 9-4, and then Clear Creek Amana 10-5 comes in at number 12. And then as far as 3A goes, we got number 6 Linn-Mar at 13-3, number 9 Iowa City High 10-2. I got to see those two teams match up a couple weeks ago now, and they're both teams to watch as far as getting to Des Moines. And then number 11 I've Iowa City West at 9-3.
And a nice win for City High in penalties over West on Monday night. I know the boys' game got moved because of the lightning, but that was an exciting girls' game. And just touching on Center Point Urbana at number 8 on the girls' ranking too, they ended up winning the WAMAC outright thanks to their overtime win over Independence. Lost to Dyke New Hartford, but able to stick at that number 8 spot to host a regional final. That was a big win over Independence. So let's kind of go right into the Class 1A brackets, starting with Region 1, where you've got a perennial power that is going to be the big favorite there.
Yes, you have Assumption here as the 1 seed. They're going to be a tough out, no doubt. The other area teams in this region, we got number 13 Beckman, Tipton, West Branch, and West Liberty are the other area teams in here. Now Beckman is likely to face the winner of Tipton West Liberty. If Beckman can get to that final game, and same for Assumption. Assuming that they're going to move forward. That should be a good match. Assumption's 13-1, and both teams have played challenging schedules this year. So, if it comes to that, Beckman's going to have their hands full. But can't ever count them out. Can't count a team like that out.
And then you've got Region 7. So we've got a bunch of regions here without any area teams. But Region 7 is pretty interesting with Denver in there at 15-1 out of the North Iowa Cedar League. But you've got a couple Gazette area teams that are going to hope to give the Cyclones a challenge.
Yes. Yep. Denver at 15-1 is the one seed there. Obviously going to be a tough out. NFV 7-6 is also in this region. Vinton Schellsburg is your two seed here. Just mentioned them a moment ago at 10-3. Nice season for the Vikings. Now they did drop out of the rankings. But if they play their game, I could see them giving Denver a challenge. If things play out again like they should, which always happens, right?
Yeah. Yeah, as we were talking about with the NBA playoffs, definitely always happens.
That's right.
Denver actually beat Vinton Schellsburg 6-0 in the regular season, but I've seen some scores even just in the postseason where that are completely different than the
Yeah.
regular season. So, and I'm going to talk about one of the boys ones here coming up. So you never know. And then one last region here, Region 8, where you've got the Storm and Pointers, a chance to host if they make it to the regional final.
Yeah, yeah. This is going to be your area team with the best chance to qualify for state here, and so number 8 Center Point is the top dog in Region 8. Not going to be an easy route for the Summer Pointers. You got Anamosa. They're at 9-3. They're a team that I talked about earlier in the season. They've been a little in and out of the rankings. That's a program that's definitely on the rise. So if they were to meet, that would be a tough matchup for CPU. Hudson is the two seed here at 13-2. And that's a good program. That's a good team. They have a really, really solid boys team as well this year. So uh great that CPU is getting the one seed. Not an easy draw here. But if I have to give a bold prediction with this region, I do think that the Storm Pointers are going to be that team that from Class 1A in our area that moves on to state. But it's definitely not going to be an easy path for them.
Yeah, I think I would go with CPU as well. They've got the history on their side. That's a program that's used to getting to Des Moines at this point, but that's probably going to be among the best regional finals around the state if both
Yeah.
CPU and Hudson get that far. So moving on to region or to Class 2A, lots of Gazette area teams have worked their way up in the rankings and are going to have a shot to get to Des Moines. Let's start here with Region 6 and tell us about the top contenders there.
Yeah, so this is kind of where the action's at for Gazette area teams in 2A. Xavier's your top seed here. You also have Marion playing South Tama to get into the regional semifinals, where Clear Creek Amana would be waiting for them. I fully expect Marion to win that contest against South Tama, and then that creates a really, really interesting semifinal matchup there against two area teams that have been pretty solid all season. CCA has been in the rankings for the better portion of the season. So that'll be a fun one. Mount Vernon will get a crack at Xavier in the semifinals if they can take care of Oskaloosa. I'm blanking on Oskaloosa's record right now, but I believe it is a losing record. And so I think Mount Vernon is going to have a chance to give Xavier a run for their money. Realistically, I think you could see either Xavier, Marion, or CCA winning this region. Xavier obviously with the advantage being the one seed, but it would not surprise me to see either of those three teams coming out of this region. So definitely intriguing as far as Gazette area teams go here.
Yeah, I would definitely pick Xavier, but I definitely picked Liberty. Actually, I think it was Independence last year that was in that region, and then Marion upset Liberty to get to state. Independence didn't even make the regional final. So Marion's done it before just last year. A lot of
Yep.
those kids are back on the same team, and they're going to have a
Mhm.
shot at that again. Region 8, speaking of Liberty, is the top seed here.
Yeah, Liberty is the top seed here, and I kind of like their draw here. Their toughest competition is likely to be number 15 Burlington. Burlington is 13-2, so they're certainly a team that comes in with a nice record and on paper looks like they could give Liberty a run for their money. That's if they get past Fort Madison, who is in the semis. Fort Madison is 10-3, so again, a couple teams that have solid records. We'll see, how much the regular season competition matches that output come postseason. Regardless, my opinion, I think you're going to see the Bolts power through here. through this region and make it to the state tournament for the first time in program history. I watched them play on Friday, and they like to strike fast and strike early. They scored 3 goals in the first 5 minutes and change against Cedar Rapids Jefferson, and that was actually all they scored. It was all they needed, but they did the same thing 2 days before against Clear Creek Amana. Jumped out, scored 3 goals. Coach said in the first 12 minutes, and so they're a team that like to jump on you early. And so if they can kind of continue that formula, yeah, I could see them going to state and doing some damage there.
Yeah, I like their chances as well. Class 3A, we're going to start in Region 6, and I got to start it with my stat that I said I was going to look up a couple weeks ago. And I'm not promising that it's 100% right because I just counted really fast. And but Linmar is in this region. That's the top seed. And based on my research, Linmar has won 70 consecutive games against Mississippi Valley Conference opponents, not just in conference play. That's just could be a non-conference game, could be a postseason game. They've won 70 straight against MVC teams. And I know they had some close ones this year, but the streak lives. Last time they lost to an MVC team was May 17th, 2018, when Cedar Falls beat them 3-2. They have not lost to an MVC team since. And they could get another game against one here in this region.
Wow, what a nugget of information there, Nathan. That is some research, man. That is awesome. I didn't realize that they had that type of streak going. That is extremely impressive. Um, yeah, and I think the most likely scenario in this region, Region 6 here, is that Linmar faces Iowa City West in the regional final. The only thing is, the Trojans will have to get past 9-5 Cedar Falls, team that's been competitive this season. I still like an area team to get here either way. It's from what I've seen, it's hard for me to bet against Linmar. They've been impressive all season. So, and I mean, I think they probably make it 71 here. If I had to guess, I mean, that's just the longevity of that streak. It just has to live, doesn't it?
Yeah, and they'll probably play two. Well, they'll definitely play two MVC teams because that's the whole region is MVC teams with Prairie and Kennedy in there as well. So
It's
they're
true.
certainly
Yeah.
familiar with getting wins against them. Another MVC team is in Region 8 with Iowa City High, and that's going to be like we talked about with that Center Point Urbana region. That's probably going to be one of the more competitive regional finals if the favorites advance.
Yeah, yeah. City High will put its impressive season kind of to the test here in this region. They should get past Davenport North. Then it'll likely come down to a game against number 8 Bettendorf to get to state. Um, I don't believe those two teams have played this year. I think I checked that. I don't think they've played. I could be
Bettendorf,
wrong on that.
they
Did they play
just
this
played.
year?
They just played last
Just
week,
played.
and
Okay.
Bettendorf beat them 2-0 on the road.
Okay. Okay. Yep. Yeah, that must yeah, like you said, just happened. So, uh, second time's the charm, potentially. Second time's the charm. And I'll tell you, the Little Hawks really gave Linmar a really tough battle a couple weeks ago when I was out there at Linmar. And so I think they're capable of playing with anybody. I think they have 9 senior starters. So it's a team with a lot of experience and a lot of desire to make it to state, a place they haven't been. That program hasn't been since 2013, since their current coach Corbin Schultz was a player there actually. So that was the last time that they were at state. So yeah, here's a bold prediction. I think the Little Hawks make it. I
Yeah,
think they right their recent wrong and get over the hump against Bettendorf.
I'm going with Linmar and Bettendorf, but I like the bold prediction. The picking the favorites isn't that fun, so
Right? I mean, it's bracketology here. I gotta pick some upsets.
yeah. So we still got a couple regular season games left, but what are you watching this week on the girls' side?
I think the big regular season game left on the schedule is tonight, actually, here shortly. Liberty is going to host Xavier, so you have two of those highly ranked 2A teams, and we're going to see which one kind of has the edge going into the postseason. Other than that, yeah, some postseason games start more on Friday, and should be a good mixture of kind of first round and quarterfinal matchups. So, as far as regular season games go, Liberty Xavier tonight, and yeah, really looking forward to what the next week brings here.
For sure. So on the boys' side, when we last talked a couple weeks ago, West Branch had moved up to number one in Class 1A, but we knew they had some big tests left, and it looks like they passed them because, as you're going to tell us here in the final rankings release, it's West Branch still at number one and 16 and 0. Pretty impressive regular season there for the Bears.
Yeah, I guess this is where the committee got it right, huh? Between West Branch and Regina, that was certainly a tough call, but West Branch proved themselves. They've been solid all season. They had never beaten Regina or West Liberty in program history. Again, they've only been around since 2018, so take that with a grain of salt. But they went on the road and beat Regina and West Liberty this year. So, I mean, talk about a team that's high pedigree, that's battle tested. I mean, they've kind of been there, done that this season. Um, 1A is kind of theirs to win right now. But it's definitely not going to be easy because right behind them you got number two Regina at 13 and 3. North Vet Valley comes in at 12 and 3, and then West Liberty stays at number 5 at 10 and 5. So that kind of wraps up a pretty competitive Class 1A for area boys soccer team. So that should be, if there's a class, I'm probably looking forward to seeing how it plays out the most out of all of our area teams. It's probably Class 1A on the boys side.
Yeah, that's going to be really exciting. But we've got some other highly ranked teams in the other classes too. Why don't you run through that?
Yeah, that's true. We can't leave out 2A, 3A, and 4A. 2A, Decorah moves up to number 3 at 13 and 3. Impressive run for the Vikings this season. Williamsburg settles in there at number 6, 13 and 3. And just a tremendous season what they've been able to do without Mason Eggleston, their leading scorer last season. So good for the Raiders there. 3A, we have Xavier, number 5. So both Xavier teams on the boys and girls side are ranked highly there. Number 8 is Marion at 11 and 4. And then your Cedar Rapids Washington Warriors get back in the rankings at number 9, coming in at 9 and 7. So I watched them play a couple weeks ago as well, and certainly a lot of talent on that team. And so good for them getting back in the rankings. They're a team that I think deserves to be there. And then 4A, we got two ranked teams. We have number 4, Iowa City West, 16 and 2, and number 10, Iowa City High at 10 and 2 to round out Class 4A.
Cedar Rapids, Washington beat City High 6-3 recently, and that opened some eyes, and that's how you get back in the
Yeah,
rankings.
that's how
Now,
you do it.
yeah. And like I said, City High and West, I think that game got postponed to Wednesday night, so that's still a exciting regular season game there, even though West has the Valley Division title clinched at this point. So let's talk postseason. Had some 1A and 2A games on Monday night. Most of the favorite or the top two seeds, obviously, in each sub-state haven't played yet. So let's go ahead and run through that. Class 1A, if the favorites advance, it's going to be a busy quarterfinal day for whoever's covering it for the Gazette there at County Soccer Park.
Yeah, it sure is. Sure is. So Class 1A Sub-State 4, you have NFV as the 1 seed. You have Postville at 12 and 3 as the 2 seed. Postville's had an impressive season. And you have Beckman there at number 3. So they're your top 3 teams, all area teams. In Sub-State 4, competitive region here. NFV, if it happens to be NFV Beckman, NFV is going to have their hands full because we know Beckman's battle tested playing in the River Valley Conference with 2 of the top teams, 3 of the top teams in the state. NFE and Postville played once earlier this year. NFE won 7-0. So again, not to say that Postville couldn't come out and play a little bit better in the postseason, but yeah, I think it's going to be come down to NFV Beckman here, and I think NFV wins it. Rich's State. So, kind of stick and chalk here with this sub-state.
Yep, I'm with you there. I think North Fayette Valley has kind of proven all year that it's deserving of that high ranking.
Yeah.
Substate 5 is pretty interesting because you got a couple teams that have played in the regular season, and the team you thought might have won did not.
Exactly, exactly. West Liberty, number 5, comes in as the number 1 seed here, and its top competition is going to be Tipton. So Tipton actually beat the Comets just a couple weeks ago, 1-0, which really was really caught my eye because I actually watched those two teams play just a season ago, and West Liberty rolled them. It was 10-0. They stopped the game in the second half. And so what a turnaround for Tipton this year. And even if they don't, make it all the way out of the sub-state, pat on the back to that program for really turning around in a season. It'll be interesting to see what happens if they meet in the regional final. But I do think West Liberty, with their pedigree and with the season they've had, I do think they advance.
Yep, I agree with you there. Sub-State 6 talked about West Branch. That's the number 1 seed. Bears have been to state before, but they haven't quite been in a favored position like they are in this sub-state tournament.
Yeah, as the 1 seed, the number 1 ranked team, you're going to be the hunted one. So West Branch is definitely going to get everybody else's best shot. That's for sure. I'd say its top competition is going to be Mediapolis at 11-3. Uh, Mediapolis maybe hasn't played the most challenging schedule, but again, you play the games that are on your schedule, and they've won the majority of them, so you can't take them lightly. Um, they have wins against Burlington, Notre Dame, and Hillcrest Academy. Hillcrest has had a decent record this season, actually in the next sub-state. So a couple decent wins for Mediapolis, but I don't see anyone in this sub-state having the firepower to match up with West Branch right now.
Yeah, Mediapolis just won the Southeast Iowa Super Conference tournament. Hillcrest Academy was the regular season champ, but Mediapolis won the tournament. So Bulldogs are used to some tournament games there, but this is probably going to be an entirely different level. I think they could probably keep it close against West Branch, but I would pick West Branch as well. And we've got one more sub-state here in 1A that's got some Gazette area teams. Regina, the top seed in sub-state 7.
Yes, yep. Regina, top seed here. Hillcrest comes in at number 2 at 10-3. So we just kind of talked about Hillcrest a little bit. Don't have a lot in terms of signature wins, but they should be taken seriously. I do think Regina comes out of the sub-state here. I kind of like the draw that Regina has. And so with that said, I'm counting 4 area teams to move on to state from 1A here. That's my prediction, and I don't think that's really bold at all. So
Yeah, and depending on how the rest of the state shakes out, I think they could all play separate games in the quarterfinals. If you're going on the rankings, you got 1, 2,
yeah,
3, and 5. It looks pretty good. So that there would even be a shot to have 4 semifinals, which would be pretty crazy for the
yeah,
Gazette area. Obviously, a lot of soccer to be played before that, but that would be something if that turns out.
for
So
sure. Sure.
let's go on to Class 2A here. Sub-State 2. No top seed for the area, but got a contender in there for sure.
Yeah, Webster City comes in as the number 4 seed in Class 2A, and they're your top seed here in Sub-State 2. Benton is the 2 at 9-5, and Benton's had a pretty nice season. Their biggest win was against Williamsburg early in the year. You can argue that Webster City has not played the most challenging schedule either. So Benton, potentially has a shot here. But at the same time, 13-1 is also kind of hard to argue with. So I wouldn't count Benton out. I think if it comes down to a matchup between those teams, it'll be a hard fought game and shouldn't be a blowout either way.
Yeah, I got kind of burned. I can't remember what year it was, but out of the North Central Conference when Humboldt first made it to state, and they're having a good year there too, by the way. But Webster City, a similar team, and I kind of thought Humboldt would lose in the sub-state, and they proved me wrong. So I'm picking Webster City this time out of this sub-state, so I don't get burned by the North Central Conference again.
Don't blame you.
Um, so sub-state 3, there's some intriguing possible battles here.
Yeah, so Substate 3, it's pretty interesting to me in our area here. Eplington Parkersburg, number 7 overall is your top seed here. Center Point Urbana at 9-4 is the 2 seed here, and CPU's have been playing really well recently. 3 straight wins over Marion, ranked team, Independence, and then Benton, who we just talked about, being 9-5 and a very solid program this year. So um, I'm going to be a local homer and pick another upset and say CPU advances here.
I think I'd go with CPU too. That team's kind of surprised me the way it's been playing lately, and like you said, those big wins that I have confidence in CPU now. And with Substate 3, I got to throw one more stat at you, by the way. I
Absolutely.
think this was Substate 3, but if not, it's still Class 2A. So Monday night, first round game, West Delaware beats Vinton Shellsburg 3-2 in overtime to advance to the next round.
Yeah.
Based on my, again, hasty research, that is West Delaware's first win over a WAMAC conference team. Again, not necessarily a conference game, but just any team that was in the WAMAC at the time since April 23rd, 2018, when it beat Anamosa 1-0, ends a 64 match losing streak. And Vinton Shellsburg had also won the regular season meeting between these two teams 6-1. So pretty impressive accomplishment from West Delaware. That can just be tough when you show up to practice games every day and you just can't get a win against. They've beaten some teams that they haven't beaten those conference teams that they
Yeah.
play every year. So that's pretty impressive. And to do it in overtime, that had to have been a pretty cool scene for West Delaware on Monday night.
Yeah, good for them, good for that program, and you hope that something a win like that could maybe propel them to get back on the right track. But wow, another nugget of a poll there, Nathan. I love it. I love the deep dives. That's great.
I came prepared to stump the Schwab of Iowa high school sports today.
Doing a great job
Uh,
with it.
so Substate 4 now. Moving on. You've got Decorah, which has just had a great year,
Yeah.
and they've got the top seed favored to get to state.
Yes, Decorah, number 3 overall. Great season. I would say Central DeWitt is they're the 2 seed here, 8-6, and they do have some strong wins this season. Central DeWitt does, but I just the way the Vikings are playing, I I just I can't see them not advancing. So I'm gonna go Vikings here.
Yeah, I'll go with Decorah too. Only losses are to 4A teams this year, which Central DeWitt plays in the MAC, so they've played plenty of really good competition too. So
Yeah.
that'll just be
Yeah.
interesting to see what happens in there. And
Yeah.
Substate 5 actually is probably it might be the most intriguing substate to me because you've got teams that just kind of play different schedules but look like they're both pretty evenly matched.
Yeah, so the 1 seed is Williamsburg at 13-2, and yeah, they've had an incredible season, especially if you consider the unfortunate nature they had to go through with losing their top scorer from last season to finish 13-2. Just kudos to that program. Uh, Solid season, and you hope they have the firepower to keep this going in the postseason. But they're gonna have a tough matchup against Assumption. Now Assumption's 8-7, and they're a team that has kind of slowly dwindled down the rankings just because of some tough losses. I mean, 8-7's not great. You're barely over 500, but they have played some tough teams. They really have. And so I think that 8-7 record is very deceptive. So Williamsburg may have their hands full when if it comes down to those two, playing for a chance in the regional finals. Um, I'm still going to go with Williamsburg, but I honestly wouldn't be shocked if Assumption was the team coming out of this bracket.
Yeah, Assumption's had trouble scoring lately. I think they've been shut out, let's see, 5 out of their last 6 if I'm looking at this right, but I might have missed a game in there. But like you said, they played really tough teams. being in the MAC. So I'm gonna pick Assumption to come out of this sub-state, but I don't feel good about it. I could see it going either way.
Absolutely. It's just going to be who comes to play that day. Should be fun. That's what makes the games fun, right?
Yeah, exactly. So let's move on to Class 3A. Speaking of teams that you see at state quite often, like Assumption, you've got Xavier and Sub-State 2, kind of under the radar this year. Just kind of wins losses kind of going back and forth, but it looks like they got a solid team that can compete in 3A for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. They're the top dog here in Substate 2 at 8-5. Washington is the 2 seed at 10-3. And I'll tell you the Saints better not sleep on Washington. They do have some nice wins this season. But you know, I my gut tells me Xavier's going to come out of here too.
Yeah, Washington won the Southeast Conference title, but I also would pick Xavier. It's just a tradition-rich program, and they play a really tough schedule.
Yep.
Sub-State 3, you've got Marion, the top seed. Marion slipped up a few times here lately, but still able to win the WAMAC and got a nice win over Pella the other night. So Marion, the top seed here in Sub-State 3.
Yeah, the Wolves top dog, but Clear Creek Amana 10-4 is the 2 here, and those two teams are familiar with one another. Now Marion took that meeting earlier. They met about a month ago, and Marion took that meeting 3-0. So I would certainly give them the edge, but you know, it's always hard to beat a team twice or 3 times, whatever the case is. You know, I do think it's probably going to be the same result. I think Marion does advance. They have the experience of being there recently, and you know, it's a team that has been pretty solid all season despite a couple recent slip ups. So I think Marion advances here.
Yeah, I like Marion as well. Sub-State 4, if you're ADM and you're the number one seed and you see the team with a not so great record in that sub-state, but you probably see the recent score that we talked about and are kind of like, oh man, that's going to be a tough one. So tell us about sub-state 4.
Yeah, ADM, like you mentioned, the top seed at 14-1. They're the number 3 team overall. And Cedar Rapids, Washington, we mentioned earlier back in the rankings at number 9 after a big win over City High. So 9-7 again, just kind of like Assumption isn't a particularly aesthetic record. It's not necessarily pretty. At least they're above 500. But I tell you what, I've seen that team play in person, and they can score in a hurry. They have solid athletes. The coach has kind of been there, done that. So I think it's going to be tough to overcome ADM, but yeah, don't count out the Warriors.
Yeah, I I would pick ADM as well, but I could easily see Cedar Rapids, Washington coming out of that. Sub-State 6, we got a possible state championship rematch, possibly. It'll be tough, but it could happen.
Yeah, interesting. I don't know if you record wise would think that maybe these are the 2 teams that played for the state title last year, but Norwalk is the 1 seed at 9-8, and again 9-8, maybe not necessarily a pretty record, but they've obviously played a very challenging schedule. I kind of think this one is wide open to a certain extent. Carlisle is the 2 seed at 9-6, and they've had they've been kind of in and out of the rankings too, and so that's gonna be a tough out. And then Iowa City Liberty, the defending 3A state champs, come in as the 3 seed here at 5-8, and you just got to wonder if they have enough magic to pull off another deep postseason run like they did last year. Last year they start 2-7, and then win what was it, 11 of the last 12 or something like that to win the 3A state title. Um, do they have that in their arsenal again this year? And playing a little bit better, I believe, recently, and so we'll see. We'll see. But that is it's an interesting bracket there.
Yeah, Liberty's certainly going to have a lot of confidence knowing what happened last year and just playing that tough schedule. But Norwalk plays a pretty similar schedule, and obviously the Warriors are going to want a little bit of revenge, even though it's different teams, different players. But that'll be. I hope that happens. No offense to Carlisle, but I kind of want to see Liberty play Norwalk again. That'd be cool to get that matchup in a sub-state final.
Yeah.
So Class 4A, sub-state 4, got a heavy favorite here in Iowa City West.
Yeah, the Trojans have the top spot here. Dubuque Hempstead at 13-3 is certainly no slouch, and that's going to be a tough out for Iowa City West. And that's if they can get through Davenport North, who's 10-5. And so it's not an easy subset to go through. Certainly, I think Iowa City West is going to have to earn their right to advance. But with as strong as they've played this season, I got to go Iowa City West here.
Yeah, I'm picking West too. And speaking of championship rematches, West went over and played Johnston on Saturday and lost 1-0 in double overtime. They lost in double overtime in last year's state championship too. So that just had to have been, oh man, that had to hurt a little bit extra. Just the exact same scenario. Obviously, they didn't give up a lead this time, but same scenario. And West is going to be right there among the state championship contenders again. So
Yeah,
I'm
maybe they
picking.
can get. Maybe it's a good thing they got that loss out of their way now.
There you
Get to
go.
get
Yeah.
another system.
Yep. Very well could be. So now at Substate 6, this one looks pretty wide open.
Yeah, this one's kind of a gauntlet. The way I look at it. So Ankeny is the top seed at 9-7. But then you have two teams who have played some of the toughest, hardest schedules in the state this year. Linn-Mar at 8-6, and Cedar Rapids Prairie, who's bounced all the way back to be above 500 at 8-7. Those two teams, Linn-Mar and Prairie, have been ranked at different times in the season. I think Prairie was ranked earlier and fell out after playing a really difficult schedule. But the way they've been able to rally recently, I mean, they're going to come in the postseason hot. And we're going to talk about games I'm looking forward to this week. So we'll come back to that. But here's probably my boldest prediction of the day. I think the winner of Linn-Mar Prairie, I think they beat Ankeny and go to state.
There you go.
I think they're two battle tested teams that the record is not indicative of necessarily how they played.
Yeah. Linmar and Linmar beat Ankeny in overtime, but that was a long time ago, early April. Cedar Rapids Prairie has got kind of one of the weirdest results schedules you'll see. 4 straight wins, 7 straight losses, and then 4 straight wins. So,
Yep.
and that's just
Yep.
kind of the way the schedule works. But I mean, you play that many tough teams in a row, and some of them just don't go your way. So, yeah, it's been good to see them bounce back. They ended up winning the Mississippi division with that 1-0 win over Xavier. I really don't know who to pick out of these three, to be honest. I wish I could just like draw names out of a hat. I think, let's see, I think Ankeny's the highest ranked team. So I'm just gonna go with Ankeny just based on that home field advantage. But I don't know. I could go either way.
I think that's fair. It was just a really good spot for me to give a bold prediction. So I had
Like
to
I
go
said,
there.
the bold predictions are way more fun than what I've been doing from throughout most of this podcast. So I got to give the credit to you. I wonder if you have any bold predictions left for Substate 7.
Yeah, so Des Moines Roosevelt, the top seed here, 11-4. Now they're gonna have it's gonna have a tough matchup against Ottumwa, who's 9-3 in the first round. City High is the 2 seed here, and yeah, they did lose recently to Cedar Rapids, Washington, but I don't think that's necessarily a terrible loss. But from what I've seen, I think City has a real shot here. They've been solid and steady all season. I don't know if I have quite the bold enough take to take them advancing. I will say that they will give, if things pan out the way they project, that they will give Des Moines Roosevelt a strong game. I'll go as far as to say that.
Yep, and I could see Atumwa being in there too. Atumwa's been salty this year. I wish I had the City High West game on the result of that game to help me out with my prediction. See how City High
Yeah.
bounces back after that loss to Wash. But I'm gonna pick City High. I think they've been solid other than just a couple slip ups.
Yeah.
So
Look
I
at you
think
going with the bold prediction.
yeah, I think when it comes down to it, I think the Little Hawks advance.
Nice.
All right, so you mentioned Linmar Prairie on Friday night. It's going to be a fun one. What else are you keeping an eye on this week?
Well, yeah, that's the one I really have my eye on. Friday night, 7 p.m. At Linmar. Be there, be square. That is probably the next game I'll be covering. But besides that, we have some other postseason games. Friday, Carlisle is going to host Liberty, the 3A Substate 6 semifinal. So kind of like what we talked about earlier. Can the Bolts catch postseason lightning again this year? It'll be interesting to see. I know they have plenty of talent on that team. It's just about finding that spark at the right time. Um, and then the other one, 3A Substate 4, Mount Vernon, 7 and 8, plays Cedar Rapids, Washington, and the winner gets a shot to make state, to take down ADM in the next round. So really just kind of I think Cedar Rapids, Washington wins that matchup. I just kind of want to see how they come out in the postseason, how they're prepared, and if they have a shot to take down ADM.
All right, I think those games are actually Monday night. I made the same mistake earlier. The boys' games are Monday night, if I'm looking at the schedule correctly. Postseason games. So we got a long wait until May 20th for those, but got some girls postseason games, got some state track, so we'll be occupied before that.
Yeah, still plenty to keep us busy, and let's hope the postseason NBA basketball keeps going for us, Nathan. I know you're more of a Lakers fan technically, but you've kind of jumped on the Wolves here this season, so we
Yeah,
team needs all the support we can get. So
I'm not afraid to jump on a local bandwagon, and when the state soccer tournament rolls around, I'll probably be predicting teams to win that I had losing before even getting to state. So that's just the way I roll sometimes.
that's what you got to do, Nathan. You got to go with your heart and just let it fly and see what happens.
Well, not sure when we'll be back because with this postseason schedule, it's kind of tough to squeeze one in, but we'll be back at some point probably to preview the state tournament and both state tournaments going on at the same week here in a couple weeks. Until then, lots of good soccer to watch, and thanks everybody for watching Park the Bus or listening. We have some listeners out there too. So
That's
thanks
right.
again for tuning in here on the Iowa Prep Sports Network, and we'll talk again soon.